The night sky shimmered with an eerie glow, the kind that made people glance upward and wonder if something was wrong. It started subtly, a faint flicker in the stars, as though the heavens themselves were trembling. At first, astronomers dismissed it as a rare atmospheric phenomenon or perhaps a glitch in their equipment. But as hours passed, the flickering grew more intense, until entire constellations seemed to blur and shift unnaturally. Something strange was happening above Earth, and no one could explain it. In small towns and bustling cities alike, people stopped what they were doing to stare at the heavens. Social media exploded with videos and photos of the bizarre light show, accompanied by panicked captions like, "Is this an alien invasion?" or, "What's going on up there?" Scientists scrambled to analyze data from satellites and observatories, but even they were baffled. The anomalies didn't match any known natural event, solar flares, asteroid impacts, or magnetic storms. This was something entirely different, something far beyond human understanding. Then came the sound. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, vibrating through homes and shaking windows. It wasn't loud enough to cause panic, but it was impossible to ignore. People stepped outside, their hearts pounding, unsure whether to feel awe or fear. Some claimed the sound felt alive, as though it carried meaning they couldn't quite grasp. Others simply covered their ears and prayed for it to stop. But the hum persisted, growing louder with each passing second, and then without warning the sky split open. It wasn't literal, of course, at least, not in a way anyone could fully comprehend. A massive tear appeared high above the atmosphere, glowing with an unnatural light that bathed the planet below in hues of blue and silver. The rift pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, and from within emerged shapes so enormous they defied belief. Ships, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, descended from the void, their sleek metallic surfaces gleaming ominously against the darkened sky. They weren't human-made, that much was clear. These vessels radiated power, their sheer size dwarfing anything humanity had ever constructed. Panic erupted worldwide. Governments issued emergency alerts, urging citizens to stay indoors and avoid large gatherings. Military forces scrambled jets and deployed anti-aircraft systems, though everyone knew conventional weapons would be useless against such advanced technology. News anchors spoke frantically into cameras, trying to make sense of what was unfolding while struggling to maintain composure. Parents held their children close, whispering reassurances they didn't believe themselves. No one knew who, or what, had arrived, but one thing was certain. Earth was under siege. The alien ships moved with precision, positioning themselves strategically over major cities and critical infrastructure. Energy beams shot down from their undersides, striking buildings, bridges, and power grids. Explosions lit up the horizon, sending plumes of smoke billowing into the air. Skyscrapers crumbled under the relentless assault, and oceans boiled where the beams struck water. Humanity's greatest achievements, the towering skyscrapers, sprawling highways, and intricate networks of communication, were reduced to rubble in mere moments. Yet amidst the chaos, there was an odd pattern to the destruction. The aliens targeted specific locations, military bases, nuclear facilities, research labs, but left residential areas largely untouched. It was as though they weren't interested in killing humans outright, but rather dismantling the tools of resistance. Still, the loss of life was catastrophic, with thousands perishing in the initial wave of attacks. Hospitals overflowed with the wounded, and makeshift refugee camps sprang up in parks and parking lots as survivors fled the burning cities. As the days dragged on, rumors began to spread. Witnesses reported seeing flashes of light near the edges of the rift, suggesting that something or someone else was watching. Some claimed to have heard voices speaking in languages no one recognized, echoing faintly through the ruins. Others swore they saw smaller crafts darting between the alien fleet and disappearing into thin air. Conspiracy theories flourished online, ranging from divine intervention to secret government experiments gone horribly wrong. Yet none of these explanations provided answers to the most pressing question. Why had the aliens come? Dr. Elena Carter, sat hunched over her computer screen, her eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. She had been part of Project Sentinel, a top-secret initiative designed to monitor anomalies in spacetime. For years, she and her team had scanned the cosmos for signs of extraterrestrial activity, always expecting to find distant signals or faint traces of intelligent life. They had never imagined encountering anything like this. Elena replayed the footage of the rift opening again and again, searching for clues. The data was overwhelming. Gravitational waves rippling through dimensions, quantum fluctuations disrupting satellite readings, and then silence. Whatever had torn open the fabric of reality had vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving behind only the alien ships. Yet something about the timing didn't add up. If the invaders had caused the rift, why did they hesitate before attacking? And why did some regions seem oddly untouched despite being prime targets? Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. General Marcus Hale entered the room, his face grim. A decorated military officer with decades of experience, he now found himself leading a desperate fight against an enemy he barely understood. "Dr. Carter," he said gruffly, "I need answers. Fast." Elena turned to face him, her expression grave. "Sir, I think we're dealing with two separate phenomena here," she began. "The rift, it wasn't created by the aliens. They came after it opened. Whoever, or whatever caused it is still out there." Hale frowned, clearly skeptical. "You're telling me there's another player in this mess?" "Yes," Elena replied firmly. "And whoever they are, they've got the aliens spooked. Look at this." She pulled up a series of surveillance images showing the alien fleet hovering cautiously near certain areas, avoiding direct engagement. "They're scared of something. Maybe even afraid of us." Hale crossed his arms, considering her words. The idea of yet another unknown force lurking in the shadows was unsettling, but it also offered a glimmer of hope. If the aliens feared something greater than themselves, perhaps humanity could exploit that fear to turn the tide. "All right," he said finally. "Keep digging. Find out everything you can about these newcomers. In the meantime, we'll focus on holding the line." As Hale left the room, Elena returned to her work, her mind racing. She knew time was running out. Every second brought fresh devastation. Every minute claimed more lives. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that salvation might lie not in brute force but in unraveling the mystery of the rift, and whoever stood behind it. Across the globe, ordinary people found themselves thrust into extraordinary circumstances. In Tokyo, a young engineer named Hiroshi Takahashi rigged drones to deliver medical supplies to isolated neighborhoods. In Nairobi, a schoolteacher named Amina Okello led her students to safety through war-torn streets, using nothing but her wits and courage. And in Rio de Janeiro, a street artist named Carlos Mendez painted murals depicting the alien ships alongside messages of resilience and unity. These acts of bravery, though small, sparked a global movement. Social media became a platform for sharing stories of survival and solidarity, reminding people that even in the darkest times, humanity refused to give up. Volunteers organized food drives, set up communication networks, and cared for the injured. Strangers helped strangers, united by a shared determination to endure. Meanwhile, scientists and researchers worked tirelessly to piece together the puzzle. Astrophysicists studied the rift, trying to determine its origin and purpose. Linguists attempted to decode the mysterious transmissions emanating from the alien fleet. Engineers experimented with salvaged alien tech, hoping to reverse engineer weapons capable of defending Earth. Each discovery brought new questions, but also renewed resolve. As the world teetered on the brink of collapse, a fragile sense of hope began to take root. Perhaps humanity wasn't alone in this fight after all. Perhaps, just perhaps, help was closer than anyone dared to imagine. Deep within the heart of a secure underground facility, Dr. Elena Carter stared at her monitors, her brow furrowed in deep concentration. The room buzzed with activity as technicians and scientists worked tirelessly around her, their faces illuminated by the glow of computer screens displaying streams of data. Elena's mind raced faster than any machine in the lab. She had spent years studying anomalies in space-time, but nothing could have prepared her for what she was witnessing now. The rift that had opened in the sky wasn't just an atmospheric disturbance. It was something far more profound. It was as though the very fabric of reality had been torn apart, creating a doorway to another dimension or realm entirely. As she analyzed the readings, patterns began to emerge, patterns that suggested the rift hadn't appeared randomly. Something or someone had triggered it deliberately, but who and why? Elena leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. Her thoughts were interrupted when General Marcus Hale entered the room, his boots echoing sharply on the tiled floor. A tall, grizzled man with a commanding presence, Hale carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Since the alien invasion began, he had become the de facto leader of humanity's defense efforts. Yet, despite his military background, he looked weary and uncertain. "Dr. Carter," Hale said, his voice low but firm. "What do we know about this thing?" He gestured toward the holographic display hovering above the central table. It showed a simulation of the rift pulsating rhythmically like a living organism. Elena hesitated before responding. "Sir, based on our analysis, the rift isn't natural. Someone, or something, created it intentionally. The gravitational waves suggest interference from an external source, one far beyond anything humans are capable of." Hale frowned, clearly dissatisfied with the ambiguity of her answer. "You're saying this isn't the aliens' doing?" "No," Elena replied firmly. "They arrived after the rift opened. They didn't cause it. They followed it. Whoever made the rift is still out there watching us." The general crossed his arms, his expression grim. "So we've got two enemies to worry about now?" "Not necessarily," Elena countered. "Look at this." She tapped a few keys, pulling up surveillance footage of the alien fleet. In several instances, the ships had altered their trajectories abruptly, avoiding certain regions altogether. "See how they're behaving? They're not acting like conquerors anymore. They're cautious, almost afraid." Hale raised an eyebrow. "Afraid of what?" "That's the million-dollar question," Elena admitted. "But whatever it is, it might be our best shot at turning the tide." Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in the remote Andes Mountains, astrophysicist Rajiv Patel adjusted the lens of his telescope, scanning the heavens for answers. Perched high above sea level, his observatory offered unparalleled views of the night sky, a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding below. Rajiv had always been fascinated by the mysteries of the universe, but tonight, those mysteries seemed closer than ever. Through his telescope, he observed the alien fleet hovering ominously over Earth's atmosphere. Their movements were precise, almost mechanical, yet there was something unsettling about them. Then, suddenly, his instruments picked up something extraordinary, a series of massive objects emerging from the edges of the rift. These weren't small scout ships or reconnaissance drones. They were colossal structures, each one larger than entire continents. Their surfaces shimmered with an otherworldly light, and their shapes defied conventional geometry. Rajiv's hands trembled as he recorded the data. His first instinct was to dismiss it as a glitch, but multiple sensors confirmed the same readings. Whatever these things were, they were real, and they were incomprehensibly powerful. He quickly sent encrypted messages to colleagues worldwide, sharing his findings. Within hours, news of the discovery reached Dr. Carter and General Hale. Back at the underground facility, Elena listened intently as Rajiv explained his observations via video call. "These ships, they're not part of the alien fleet," he said, his voice tinged with both excitement and fear. "They're different, older maybe. Their movements suggest restraint rather than aggression." "Older?" Hale interjected, skepticism evident in his tone. "How can you tell?" "It's hard to explain," Rajiv admitted. "But they don't behave like invaders. They're observing, waiting, almost as if they're deciding what to do next." Elena nodded thoughtfully. "If they're not hostile, maybe we can use them to our advantage." Hale's eyes narrowed. "Use them? You're talking about beings who could wipe us out with a flick of their wrist? How exactly do you propose we use them? Communicate, Elena replied simply. We let them know we're here, that we're not the enemy. Maybe they'll see us as allies instead of threats. The idea hung in the air, daring anyone to challenge it. Communicating with unknown entities carried enormous risks. If misinterpreted, such an attempt could provoke retaliation. Yet, sitting, idly by guaranteed humanity's defeat. After a long pause, Hale finally spoke. All right, let's assume we can reach out to them. How do we even begin? Elena exchanged a glance with Rajiv, who shrugged helplessly. We start by sending signals, she said. Simple ones using mathematical constants and universal principles. If they're advanced enough to build ships like those, they'll understand. Hale sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. Fine, get to work. But remember, one wrong move and we're finished. As scientists scrambled to devise a plan for communication, the situation on the ground continued to deteriorate. Cities burned, oceans churned, and millions of lives hung in the balance. Amidst the devastation, pockets of resistance fought valiantly against the alien occupiers. One such group operated in the ruins of New York City, led by Captain Ava Rodriguez, a fearless soldier whose determination inspired everyone around her. Ava moved swiftly through the rubble-strewn streets, her rifle slung across her shoulder and her face streaked with dirt and sweat. Behind her trailed a ragtag team of soldiers and civilians, men and women who had lost everything but refused to give up. Together, they waged guerrilla warfare against the invaders, striking quickly and retreating before reinforcements arrived. Despite the odds, Ava remained hopeful. Rumors of the mysterious newcomers had reached her ears, fueling her belief that salvation might still be possible. She knew that relying on outside forces was risky, but desperation pushed her to consider every option. When word came down from command about the plan to communicate with the newcomers, Ava volunteered her team immediately. We need to get inside their command center, she told her squad during a hurried briefing. There's tech there we can use to broadcast a signal. If we succeed, we might just buy ourselves some time. Her words were met with nods of agreement, though the weight of the mission was clear on everyone's faces. Breaking into an alien stronghold was suicide, plain and simple. But failure meant certain death anyway. With grim resolve, the team prepared for their final stand. That night, under cover of darkness, Ava and her team infiltrated the outskirts of the alien base. The structure loomed ahead, its jagged silhouette cutting into the starless sky. Energy beams crackled overhead, illuminating the area in bursts of blinding light. Guards patrolled the perimeter, their insect-like forms glinting menacingly in the dim glow. Using makeshift tools and sheer ingenuity, the team disabled security systems and slipped inside unnoticed. The interior was a labyrinth of corridors, and chambers filled with strange machinery humming softly. Every step felt like walking into the belly of a beast, but Ava pressed on, her focus unshakable. Finally, they reached the heart of the facility, a control room brimming with alien technology. At its center stood a towering console covered in glowing symbols and pulsating lights. Ava approached cautiously, her fingers brushing against the surface. This is it, she whispered. We can use this to send the signal. One of her teammates, a young engineer named Liam, knelt beside the console, examining it closely. I think I can rig this, he said, pulling out cables and wires scavenged from earlier raids. But it'll take time. Time they didn't have. Alarms blared suddenly, red lights flashing as the aliens detected the intruders. Shouts echoed through the corridors as reinforcements closed in. Ava turned to her team, her voice steady despite the rising panic. Hold them off. Give Liam as much time as you can. With that, the battle erupted once more. Bullets ricocheted off metallic walls and energy blasts seared the air. Ava fought fiercely, her every movement driven by the knowledge that humanity's fate rested on their shoulders. Around her comrades fell, but she refused to falter. Minutes stretched into eternity. Just as the last line of defense crumbled, Liam shouted triumphantly, "It's done! I've sent the signal!" Ava grabbed him by the arm, dragging him toward the exit. "Let's go!" she yelled, firing blindly behind her as they retreated. As they emerged into the cold night air, the sound of explosions faded into silence. Above them, the sky shimmered eerily, the rift still pulsing with unnatural light. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the colossal ships descended, their presence dwarfing everything beneath them. Ava held her breath, unsure whether to feel relief or dread. Had their gamble paid off? Or had they sealed their doom? The colossal ships descended silently, their massive forms blotting out the stars and casting long shadows across the devastated Earth. Each vessel was a marvel of design, their surfaces shimmering with an otherworldly light that seemed to pulse, in rhythm with some unseen force. The air grew heavy, charged with energy as if the very atmosphere could no longer contain the power radiating from these ancient structures. Humanity watched in awe and fear as the newcomers positioned themselves strategically around the planet, forming a protective barrier between Earth and the alien invaders. In the underground facility, Dr. Elena Carter stared at the live satellite feeds, her heart pounding in her chest. She had hoped for this moment, prayed for it even, but now that it was happening, she felt a mixture of relief and terror. What did these beings want? Were they truly allies, or was this just another layer of complexity in humanity's fight for survival? General Marcus Hale paced the room, his boots clicking against the cold floor. His jaw was clenched tightly, his mind racing through possibilities. "Do we know anything yet?" he barked, glancing at Elena. "Any sign of communication?" Elena shook her head, her eyes glued to the monitors. "Nothing concrete, but look at their movements. They're not attacking, they're surrounding the planet, almost like they're shielding us." Hale frowned, unconvinced. "Shielding us from what?" "The aliens are already here. Unless—" He trailed off, his gaze shifting to the screen showing the rift still pulsating above the atmosphere. "Unless there's more coming." Elena hesitated before responding. She had considered the same possibility, that the rift might serve as a gateway for reinforcements on either side. If the aliens had backup arriving, so too might the newcomers. But that raised another question. Who were these beings, and why? Were they intervening now? Before she could voice her thoughts, alarms blared throughout the facility. Technicians scrambled to interpret incoming data, their voices rising in urgency. "Sir," one of them called out, "we're detecting massive energy fluctuations near the rift." "It's destabilizing." Hale spun toward the technician, his face pale. "Destabilizing how? Is it closing?" "No, sir," the technician replied, his fingers flying over the keyboard. Screens flickered as new images appeared, streams of raw footage showing the rift expanding rapidly, its edges glowing brighter and brighter. "It's growing." Elena's breath caught in her throat. Growing meant only one thing. Whatever had opened the rift wasn't done. More entities, more forces could emerge at any moment, and given the scale of what they'd seen so far, the implications were staggering. High above the chaos, aboard one of the colossal ships, an assembly of figures gathered in a vast chamber bathed in soft, golden light. These beings were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Their forms shifted fluidly, neither fully solid nor entirely ethereal. Some appeared humanoid, while others resembled intricate crystalline structures or swirling clouds of energy. Despite their differences, they shared a singular purpose: maintaining balance. At the center of the chamber stood a figure known simply as the Overseer, a towering entity whose presence commanded respect and reverence. Its body gleamed with iridescent hues, and its voice resonated like a symphony when it spoke. "The time has come," the Overseer declared, addressing the assembled council. "The lesser ones have overstepped their bounds. We cannot allow them to disrupt the harmony of this realm." One of the council members, a being shaped like a spiraling helix of light, spoke up. "They seek dominance, as they always do. Yet the inhabitants of this world, they are resilient. Perhaps they deserve our aid." Another member chimed in. its form resembling a cluster of floating orbs. Resilience alone does not guarantee worthiness. We must weigh the risks. To intervene is to risk exposure, to draw attention from those who would see us undone. The overseer listened intently, considering each argument. Finally, it raised a hand, silencing the debate. Enough. This world stands at a crossroads. If left unchecked, the lesser ones will consume it entirely. Our duty is clear. We protect, however. It paused, its gaze sweeping across the council. We shall observe first. Let us see how the natives respond to the challenge before deciding further action. With that, the council dispersed, leaving the overseer alone to contemplate the unfolding events below. Through the ship's observation deck, it gazed down at Earth, a fragile blue sphere teetering on the brink of destruction. The overseer knew all too well the fragility of life, the delicate threads that bound existence together. This world was no exception. But perhaps, just perhaps, its people possessed something rare, the spark of defiance. Back on Earth, Captain. Ava Rodriguez and her team regrouped in the ruins of what was once New York City. Exhausted and battered, they huddled around a makeshift campfire, their faces illuminated by its flickering flames. Liam, the young engineer who had rigged the transmitter, sat quietly, staring into the distance. "Do you think they heard us?" he asked finally, breaking the silence. Ava glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "Doesn't matter now. We did what we could. Whatever happens next is out of our hands." Her words carried a mix of resignation and hope. Around them, survivors whispered prayers or shared stories of loved ones lost. The city was unrecognizable, a wasteland of shattered glass, twisted metal, and charred remains. Yet amidst the devastation, small acts of kindness persisted. Strangers shared food and water, tended to the wounded, and offered comfort to those grieving. In the darkest hour, humanity clung to its humanity. Suddenly, a low-frequency hum filled the air, vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. Everyone froze, their eyes darting upward. Overhead, the colossal ships loomed closer, their lights casting eerie shadows across the landscape. Then, without warning, beams of pure energy shot down from the heavens, enveloping both the alien fleet and remnants of human forces alike. For agonizing seconds, no one moved. The beams didn't burn or destroy. Instead, they seemed to neutralize everything they touched. Alien vessels disintegrated into harmless particles, their occupants immobilized mid-action. Energy weapons ceased firing, and the skies fell eerily silent. Even the rift above began to stabilize, its edges shrinking until it vanished entirely. When the light faded, the survivors blinked in disbelief. The alien threat was gone, or at least rendered powerless. But the real shock came moments later, when a voice echoed through the air, resonating in every language known to man. "You are safe now." The message repeated itself 3 times before fading away, leaving behind an unsettling calm. People exchanged bewildered glances, unsure whether to cheer or cry. Had salvation truly arrived, or was this merely the beginning of a new chapter in humanity's struggle? In the Andes Mountains, Rajiv Patel adjusted his telescope once more, capturing images of the colossal ships as they assumed defensive positions around Earth. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from sheer wonder. Never in his wildest dreams had he imagined witnessing such a spectacle. These beings, these guardians of the cosmos, had stepped in when all hope seemed lost. But why? What made Earth worthy of their protection? Rajiv transmitted his findings to colleagues worldwide, sparking debates among scientists and philosophers alike. Some argued that the intervention proved humanity's potential, that the newcomers saw value in preserving a species capable of creativity, resilience, and cooperation. Others believed it was purely coincidental, that Earth happened to lie within the path of conflict between greater powers. As the days passed, researchers worked tirelessly to analyze the energy signatures emitted by the ships, hoping to decode their technology or understand their motives. Yet despite their efforts, the beings remained enigmatic, offering no further explanation for their actions. Meanwhile, governments convened emergency summits, attempting to formulate a unified response. Should they attempt contact again, offer gratitude, or simply wait and observe? Opinions varied widely, but one consensus emerged. Humanity owed its survival to forces beyond comprehension. In the underground facility, Elena Carter sat alone in her office, staring at a blank screen. Her mind replayed the events of the past few days: the rift, the invasion, the arrival of the colossal ships. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. The rift had opened a doorway, and though it had closed for now, nothing guaranteed it wouldn't reopen. And if it did, who or what would come through next? Elena sighed, leaning back in her chair. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. Humanity had faced extinction and survived, not through brute strength or superior weaponry, but through ingenuity, courage, and an unyielding refusal to give up. Perhaps that was what the newcomers had seen. Perhaps that was what made Earth special. But as she gazed at the photo of her family pinned to the wall, a reminder of why she fought so hard, Elena knew the battle wasn't truly won. Questions lingered, dangers loomed, and the future remained uncertain. Still, for the first time in what felt like forever, she dared to feel a sliver of hope. Outside, the sun rose over a battered but resilient world. Life went on, as it always did. And somewhere above, the colossal ship stood watch, silent sentinels guarding a fragile blue planet spinning quietly through the void. The days following the arrival of the colossal ships were a blur of confusion, relief, and cautious optimism. Humanity had been granted a reprieve, a chance to breathe after weeks of relentless destruction. But no one dared to celebrate just yet. The alien invaders, once so confident in their superiority, now floated helplessly in stasis fields created by the newcomers' energy beams. Their weapons had been neutralized, their fleets dismantled, and their plans for conquest ground to a halt. Yet the presence of the colossal ships hovering protectively around Earth raised more questions than answers. In cities across the globe, survivors began the painstaking process of rebuilding. Streets littered with debris were cleared, shelters were erected for displaced families, and makeshift hospitals treated the wounded. Despite the devastation, there was an undeniable sense of unity among people who had once been divided by borders, languages, and ideologies. Strangers shared meals, volunteers worked tirelessly to restore basic services, and communities came together to honor those they had lost. It was as though the shared trauma of facing extinction had stripped away differences, leaving behind only the bonds of humanity. But beneath the surface, tensions simmered. Governments debated how to respond to the newcomers. Should they attempt communication again, offer gratitude, or simply observe from a distance? Military leaders argued over whether the colossal ships posed a new threat, while scientists scrambled to analyze every scrap of data they could gather. Conspiracy theories flourished online, ranging from claims that the newcomers were gods to fears that they were preparing Earth for colonization themselves. Dr. Elena Carter found herself at the center of these discussions. Her role in deciphering the rift and theorizing about the newcomers' motives made her a key figure in humanity's response. Sitting in a dimly lit conference room at the underground facility, she listened as representatives from various nations argued over the next steps. "We need to send another message," said Ambassador Patel, a soft-spoken diplomat from India. "If they intervene to save us, we owe them acknowledgement. Silence might be seen as ingratitude." General Marcus Hale, seated across the table, shook his head firmly. "We don't know what they want. For all we know, they're waiting for us to make a move so they can justify wiping us out." Elena leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. "Both sides have valid points, but we can't afford to sit idle. If the newcomers are truly here to protect us, we should show them we're willing to cooperate. If they're not, well, doing nothing won't change our fate." Her words struck a chord, and after hours of heated debate, a compromise was reached. A global coalition would draft a unified message expressing gratitude and requesting clarification on the newcomers' intentions. The message would be broadcast using salvaged alien technology, ensuring it could reach the colossal ships without interference. Meanwhile, Captain Ava Rodriguez returned to what remained of New York City, her mind heavy with conflicting emotions. She had played a crucial role in transmitting the initial signal, an act that may have tipped the scales in humanity's favor. Yet as she walked through streets still smoldering from the invasion, she couldn't shake the feeling that survival came at a cost, one she didn't fully understand. Ava gathered her team in a crumbling apartment building that served as their temporary headquarters. They sat around a rickety table, their faces etched with exhaustion and uncertainty. "So what now?" asked Liam, the young engineer who had helped rig the transmitter. His voice carried a note of apprehension. "Do we just wait for them to tell us what happens next?" Ava hesitated before answering. "I don't think waiting is an option. We've got two choices. Either we keep fighting, to rebuild, to prepare for whatever comes next, or we let fear paralyze us. And I'm not about to do that." Her determination ignited a spark in the others. Slowly, plans began to take shape. Some members of the team volunteered to assist local efforts in clearing rubble and distributing supplies, while others focused on repairing damaged infrastructure. Ava herself took charge of organizing patrols to ensure the safety of survivors, knowing that even without the alien threat, chaos could easily spiral into violence. As days turned into weeks, Ava noticed something remarkable happening. People weren't just surviving. They were thriving. Gardens sprouted amidst the ruins, powered by solar panels scavenged from abandoned rooftops. Artists painted murals on crumbling walls, turning scars of war into symbols of hope. Children played in the streets again, their laughter echoing like music in a world that had nearly fallen silent. Yet, despite the progress, Ava couldn't ignore the looming presence of the colossal ships. Every night she climbed to the rooftop of the building, gazing up at the glowing behemoths suspended in the sky. What did they want? Why had they saved humanity? And most importantly, how long would they stay? In the remote Andes Mountains, Rajiv Patel continued his work at the observatory, his curiosity driving him to uncover the secrets of the newcomers. Using advanced telescopes and sensors, he studied the colossal ships in unprecedented detail. Their surfaces shimmered with patterns that shifted constantly, almost as if they were alive. Energy readings suggested they operated on principles far beyond human understanding, drawing power from sources unknown. Rajiv collaborated with scientists worldwide, sharing his findings and piecing together fragments of the puzzle. One discovery stood out. The ships emitted low-frequency signals that resonated with Earth's magnetic field. These signals seemed to stabilize the planet's atmosphere, counteracting the environmental damage caused by the alien invasion. It was as though the newcomers were not only protecting Earth from external threats, but also healing it from within. "This changes everything," Rajiv murmured to himself late one night, staring at the data streaming across his monitors. He realized that the newcomers weren't merely observers. They were caretakers, guardians of balance in the universe. Perhaps Earth wasn't special because of humanity, but rather because it existed within a delicate web of cosmic harmony. By intervening, the newcomers had restored equilibrium, ensuring that life on this tiny blue planet could endure. Excited by his revelation, Rajiv prepared a report detailing his findings. He knew it wouldn't provide all the answers, but it offered a glimpse into the motivations of the enigmatic beings. As he transmitted the document to colleagues around the world, he felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, humanity could learn to coexist with forces far greater than itself. Back at the underground facility, Elena Carter reviewed the final draft of the global message. It was concise yet heartfelt, expressing gratitude for the newcomer's intervention while respectfully asking for guidance. The language was simple, avoiding anything that might be misinterpreted as aggression or arrogance. Once approved, the message was encoded into a series of mathematical sequences and universal constants, ensuring it would be understood regardless of cultural or linguistic barriers. As technicians activated the transmitter, Elena held her breath. The signal shot upward, carried by waves of energy toward the nearest colossal ship. Seconds stretched into minutes, then hours. No response came. Frustration bubbled beneath the surface, but Elena refused to give up. "They're watching," she told General Hale during a private meeting. "They've seen everything we've done, the destruction, the rebuilding, the unity. They're waiting to see what kind of species we are." Hale grunted, unconvinced. "And what if they decide we're not worth saving?" "Then we'll prove them wrong," Elena replied fiercely. "We'll keep going, keep fighting. Because that's what humans do." Far above Earth, aboard one of the colossal ships, the overseer observed the transmission with keen interest. The message was primitive by their standards, yet its sincerity was unmistakable. Images of Earth's recovery efforts accompanied the words, scenes of people working together, caring for one another and finding beauty amidst ruin. The overseer recognized something familiar in these acts: resilience. Turning to the council, the overseer addressed them solemnly. "The natives have shown promise. They possess flaws, yes, but also potential. Shall we guide them further?" One council member, resembling a crystalline lattice, spoke softly. "To interfere directly risks disrupting their growth. Balance must be maintained." Another, shaped like a swirling vortex, countered, "Their survival depends on our aid. To abandon them now would invite imbalance elsewhere." After a moment of contemplation, the overseer nodded. "Very well. We shall grant them knowledge, not answers, but tools. Let them forge their own path." With that decision, the council dispersed, leaving the overseer alone once more. Through the observation deck, it gazed down at Earth, marveling at the tenacity of its inhabitants. Though fragile and flawed, humanity burned with a fire that refused to be extinguished. Perhaps, the overseer mused, this world held more value than initially assumed. Below, unaware of the deliberations taking place high above, humanity pressed onward. Cities rose from ashes, dreams took flight, and hearts beat with renewed purpose. The end no longer seemed inevitable. For better or worse, the future remained unwritten. Weeks turned into months, and Earth began to heal. The scars of the alien invasion remained: crumbled buildings, charred landscapes, and empty spaces where loved ones once stood. But life found a way to flourish again. The colossal ships still loomed in the skies, silent sentinels watching over the planet like ancient guardians. Their presence was both comforting and unnerving, a reminder that humanity's fate rested in the hands of beings far beyond its understanding. In the underground facility, Dr. Elena Carter pored over data, her mind racing with possibilities. The global message had been sent weeks ago, yet there was no response from the newcomers. No acknowledgement, no instructions, nothing. It was as if they were deliberately withholding communication, observing humanity from afar without interfering. Further. But why? What were they waiting for? Elena sat alone in her office, staring at the holographic display of Earth surrounded by the colossal ships. She replayed the events leading up to their intervention, the rift, the alien invasion, the mysterious patterns in the aliens' behavior, and tried to piece together the puzzle. Something about the newcomers' actions suggested caution, restraint. They hadn't destroyed the invaders outright. Instead, they had neutralized them, leaving room for interpretation. Did this mean they wanted humanity to grow stronger on its own? Or were they simply biding their time before making another move? Her thoughts were interrupted by General Marcus Hale, who entered the room unannounced. His expression was unusually grim even for him. "Dr. Carter," he said, his voice low and urgent, "we've got a situation." Elena turned to face him, her heart skipping a beat. "What is it?" Hale hesitated before answering. "The rift, it's back." High above Earth, aboard one of the colossal ships, the overseer detected the disturbance almost immediately. The rift had reopened, larger and more unstable than before. Energy readings surged, threatening to tear apart the fabric of reality itself. Through the observation deck, the overseer watched as tendrils of light snaked outward from the rift, probing the edges of space-time. Whatever lay beyond was growing restless. Summoning the council once more, the overseer addressed them gravely. "The imbalance has returned. If left unchecked, it will consume this realm entirely. One council member, resembling a cluster of luminous orbs, spoke urgently. We cannot allow the rift to expand further. To do so risks drawing attention from forces we cannot control. Another, shaped like a crystalline lattice, added, yet closing it prematurely may trap those within it, forces that could destabilize other realms. The overseer nodded thoughtfully. Then we must act swiftly but carefully. We shall contain the rift while monitoring its contents. Should anything emerge, we will evaluate its threat level accordingly. With that decision made, the council dispersed, leaving the overseer to oversee preparations. Massive beams of energy shot out from the ships, encircling the rift and stabilizing its edges. For now, the danger was contained, but how long it would hold was anyone's guess. Back on Earth, chaos erupted once more. News of the rift's reappearance spread like wildfire, reigniting fears of another invasion. Governments issued emergency alerts, urging citizens to remain calm and prepare for the worst. Scientists scrambled to analyze the phenomenon, desperate to understand what was happening. Social media buzzed with speculation, ranging from theories of a second alien fleet arriving to predictions of apocalyptic destruction. In New York City, Captain Ava Rodriguez rallied her team, readying them for whatever might come next. We don't know what's coming through that thing, she said, addressing her squad in the ruins of their headquarters. But we're not going down without a fight. Stay sharp, stay alert, and remember, we've faced worse. Her words inspired confidence, though deep down Ava couldn't shake the feeling that this time might be different. The last invasion had nearly destroyed humanity. What horrors awaited them now? As if in response to her thoughts, the ground trembled violently. A deafening roar filled the air as something massive emerged from the rift, a creature unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Its body shimmered with iridescent scales and its wings spanned kilometers across the sky. Eyes glowing with an otherworldly light scanned the landscape below, searching for prey. Panic swept through the city as people fled in terror. The creature let out a piercing screech, sending shockwaves rippling through the air. Buildings crumbled under the force and fires erupted in its wake. Humanity's fragile recovery teetered on the brink of collapse once more. From their vantage point high above, the overseer observed the creature's emergence with concern. It is as we feared, it murmured to itself. The rift has summoned a predator. Without hesitation, the colossal ships moved into position, forming a protective barrier between the creature and Earth. Beams of energy shot out, attempting to subdue the beast. But unlike the alien invaders, this entity proved far more resilient. Its scales deflected the attacks and its movements grew faster, more erratic. Realizing brute force wouldn't work, the overseer activated a secondary protocol. Streams of golden light enveloped the creature, binding it in place. Though resistant, the beast eventually succumbed to the overwhelming power of the ships. With great effort, the overseer guided the creature back toward the rift, sealing it inside before collapsing the portal entirely. Below, survivors stared in awe as the skies cleared, the threat vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. Silence fell over the ruined cities, broken only by the sound of distant sirens and sobbing voices. Once again, humanity owed its survival to the enigmatic beings watching over them. In the aftermath, questions lingered. Why had the rift reopened? What had summoned the creature, and could it happen again? Scientists worked tirelessly to decode the events, piecing together fragments of information gleaned from the brief encounter. Rajiv Patel, stationed in the Andes Mountains, discovered traces of residual energy matching the creature's signature. It wasn't random, he concluded after analyzing the data. Something or someone is using the rift as a weapon. His findings sparked heated debates among researchers and policymakers. Some argued that Earth needed to develop countermeasures against future threats, while others believed reliance on the newcomers was inevitable. Elena Carter, meanwhile, focused on finding a way to communicate directly with the overseer. If they're willing to protect us, they must have a reason, she reasoned. We need to understand their motives. Her determination led to the creation of a new initiative, Project Harmony. Using salvaged alien technology and insights provided by Rajiv's research, Scientists constructed a device capable of transmitting complex signals into deep space. The message was simple yet profound, an invitation for dialogue, a plea for understanding. When the signal was broadcast, humanity held its breath. Hours passed, then days. Just as hope began to fade, a response finally came. A beam of light descended from one of the colossal ships, landing softly in the middle of a barren desert. From the light emerged a figure, a being composed entirely of shifting energy, its form fluid and ever-changing. The being approached a group of representatives assembled nearby, its voice resonating like a chorus. "You seek answers," it said, its words echoing in every language simultaneously. "Know this: your world exists within a delicate balance. To preserve it, you must learn to coexist, not only with each other but with the greater forces around you." Before anyone could respond, the being dissolved into light, ascending back toward the ships. The message was clear. Humanity's survival depended on unity, cooperation, and humility. In the months that followed, life on Earth changed dramatically. Nations set aside differences, working together to rebuild and innovate. Technologies, inspired by the newcomers' advancements, revolutionized industries, improving quality of life while reducing environmental impact. Art flourished as people sought to express gratitude and resilience, turning ruins into monuments of hope. The colossal ships remained in orbit, their purpose fulfilled, for now. Yet humanity knew better than to take their protection for granted. Vigilance became a way of life, with observatories monitoring the skies and researchers studying the mysteries of the universe. As Dr. Elena Carter gazed up at the stars one night, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but humanity had proven its strength time and again. Whatever the future held, she knew one thing for certain: the end no longer seemed inevitable.